Welcome again on this fascinating journey of research. In this video, we'll discuss about ethics in research. The whole world of research is about human beings, right? And sometimes it involves human beings as subjects, and anything that involves human beings has to be handled with sincerity and sensibly. So that is welcome to the world of ethics in research, and especially if we talk about today's time, it is a time when we witness profound change in our understanding of the ethics of applied social research. Let me give you a background to ethics in research. There are two marker events, and there are many events, but let's say two marker events that initiates or that sets the stage of why ethics is required in research. The number one being the Nuremberg war crimes trial that took place during the World War II, when human subjects, like captive human subjects, were involved oftentimes in some gruesome experiments. So that was the first example to quote. So yes, there were captive human subjects, and German scientists tried conducting some experiments on them. So that is the first thing. The second one was the Tuskegee syphilis study. Actually, the study took place from 1932 to 1972. But here also there was a lacuna in terms of addressing the ethical issues. Participants were not, you are trying to see assigning people into control group and treatment group, and you are watching people worsening their conditions and doing nothing. You could have supplied some maybe some cure to those people, but in order to study that whether a drug is working or not, let people die. Many people died out of this study. So this was something to be discussed. The whole idea, the common thing is the same, that potential human subjects are needed to be protected from being used as guinea pigs in scientific research. This is the whole idea of discussing ethics in research. What is ethics? Do we have a clear-cut definition or clear-cut procedures at place? Well, there might not be any consensus, but certainly you have two extreme conditions. One, protecting against human experimentation at all costs. This is one extreme position which says no, if it involves human beings, you should not give a nod to such studies. And the other one is actually allowing anyone who is willing to be experimented on. This is another extreme. So how we are going to address it? So naturally, well, even if it is not entirely clear, but let's say we have two extreme positions. One which is saying a complete denial, where you will not allow any human beings, you will not run any experiments on human beings as subjects. Vis-a-vis, you have the other extreme where you have people who are giving their consent, who are willing to be experimented on. So whether it would be right or wrong, that is the real question. So welcome to the ethical issues and ways to address them, especially in research. We have some very important terms which you could remember, which would always going to be helpful for you while dealing with ethics in research. The first one is the principle of voluntary participation. So if you are trying to take responses from your participants, it should not be forced or it should not be coerced into them. It should not be forceful. People should voluntarily participate in your study. There should be, the participation has to be voluntary, right? And they are free to participate or not to. That's as simple as it is. And the next one, which is a closely related notion, which is the requirement of informed consent. Now when you say informed consent, it is about informing your participants about the procedures and the risks, not just procedures. You have to highlight if there are any risks involved. You have to tell your participants in advance. Having understood all the procedures and risk involved, if at all they give their consent, only then you should allow their participation. So from voluntary participation to informed consent. And the third one, which is if the process or the design is such which involves risk of harm, it could be both physically or mental, then researchers must not put participant into a situation which involves risk of harm, right? So the participation itself puts the participant into a situation where there could be risky, right? So that is not allowed. The fourth one is actually about maintaining participants' confidentiality. Now research involves gathering data of different kinds of type, and in information age, data is everything. So there are many potential buyers or companies or different interesting or parties who would be interested in the demographic data or the kind of data which you are trying to gather for your research purpose. But then that is why the identity of the participants, their details are at stake. If those things are leaked out, those things are sold to some interested parties, so there is always such kind of threat. So there has to be, so all researcher has to guarantee this, that participants' confidentiality would be maintained at every cost. Anyone who is not directly involved in the study would not get any access to such data. The next one is the principle of anonymity, which is even one step ahead of this participants' confidentiality, where the participants will remain anonymous, means not known, even to the researchers themselves. Anonymous means their identity is simply blinded or from the researcher. Even the researcher would not be able to identify who is participating, who is not, right? But then there are instances where you have to actually, researcher has to see how he is going to confirm with this principle of anonymity, especially if you talk about longitudinal studies, or you have repeated studies, and you have repeated measure studies. All those places you have to be at times it becomes very difficult. Which participant was here, the same participant, third time, fourth time. So maybe it requires some kind of identity. So how you are going to meet that anonymity is an important thing to discuss. So sometimes it happens that despite of ethical standards at place, you have to work out the way. So is there a way to address these issues? Yes, these principles were definitely help. And in terms of a practice, most institutions and organizations have formulated a body which is called Institutional Review Board, IRB, which actually is a panel of persons who reviews grant proposals with respect to ethical implications. So they are the ones who actually try to evaluate the whole research project from the ethical plane, and they suggest measures that are needed to be pursued in order to ensure the safety or anonymity of the participants and preserving the rights of the participants. So that's all in this video, and we'll explore more. Thank you very much.